Okay, guys, another round of applause for the agriculture panel, please. All right. I just want to call out to the gentlemen and ladies in the back. Please move forward a little bit, okay? Because we have some seats up front that you can get a closer look at all the panelists. It's a fascinating discussion. Honestly, next time I eat tofu, I will just feel the weight of the U.S.-China relationship. Yeah, and okay, can we have more people coming to the front? We're gonna have another fascinating panelist. Nobody wants to move. Okay, all right. I'm begging you now. All right. Okay. Let me see. Are we ready for our next panel, guys? Yes, yes. Come on, come on. Yeah, let me hear it. Let me hear it. Okay. All right. Okay. We need to use our applaud and cheer to draw more people in here. Let's have the loudest cheer we can have. Okay. All right. 1, 2, 3. Woo! One more time. 1, 2, 3. All right. Okay. Oh, we've got one more person to get. Okay. All right, the next panel is Artificial Intelligence Forum. And our moderator is a managing director, Polsky Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation at the University of Chicago. And he's also the former former Chicago deputy mayor. Let's give a big hand for Samir Mayekar. Samir Mayekar. Hey, keep it up, keep it up. All right.
Good afternoon, everybody. I was told that they were going to play the Chicago Bulls Michael Jordan walk-up music, but we didn't get that. Okay, so we have an exciting panel. We're here to talk about the future. This is going to be a panel discussion about AI and about robotics. This is a topic of intense amounts of investment and focus and competition, especially between the US and China, but also a significant amount of points of collaboration. So I'm going to bring our panelists up. Before I do, let me just tell you a little bit about what we do at University of Chicago. I lead a center called the Polsky Center for Entrepreneurship at the University of Chicago. We're the startup engine out of the university. We help create anywhere between 30 and 50 new companies a year, especially in the fields of AI, quantum technology, life sciences, and the energy transition. Over the past year, our affiliated companies that have come out of the Polsky Center have raised about $1 billion of capital, and we had about $1 billion of exits this year as well. So there's a huge amount of startup activity happening coming out of the university, and we just opened up a new science incubator and have our own venture fund. So if any of you are interested in doing deals with university-based inventors, come see me afterwards. But to turn to our exciting panelists, let's bring them all up here. So if you're on the panel, come on up, and I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves. We have Li Yang from Intbot, Matt Sachs from Lightbank, Sylvia Wang from the SSG Accelerator, Sao Chen Zhang from the AI 2030, and Oliver Zhang from Hawk Robo Systems. They all represent leaders across robotics, AI, and venture capital. And just pick wherever you want to sit here. I'm going to be standing the whole time here, so we ran out of couches, folks. Okay, so why don't we start, maybe Sylvia, with you. Just briefly kind of introduce yourself and your organization, and we'll go down, and then I'll start asking more difficult questions. And maybe we could pass one microphone down to her.
Oh,
you have one? Okay, great.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sylvia, and I run this new accelerator fund. And we support two types of people here. One is Asian founders who are trying to build in the US while they want to expand globally in the future. And the second kind is any type of founder who can really leverage our Asian resources, which includes our talent pool, our supply chain, and all the other things that we can supply them. We're super lucky to have been working with the University of Chicago under Samir's support. The school is not only our anchor LP, but also provide us with location and stuff and curriculum that we built together for these type of founders specifically, and also just like this magnificent mentor system where comes from our alumni, mentors, and allies all together. So yeah.
And Sylvia's being modest. She's also a U Chicago and Stanford alum who worked at a top venture capital fund. So we're really lucky to have her as a partner. All right, next up, my friend from AI 2030.
Thank you. My name is Xiaochun Zhang, and I run AI 2030. So AI 2030, we are a global initiative with the goal to mainstream responsible AI by 2030. And we defined what does mean by being responsible, which include make AI transparent, accountable, fair, safe, secure, sustainable, and privacy preserved. And of course that we cannot do that ourselves alone, and then our approach is really try to empower individuals and organizations. When you take responsible AI leadership, and then we just achieve our goal through you. And there that we currently have around over 5,000 members across the 50-some countries, and we identify 3 gaps: awareness gap, talent gap, tooling gap, and we build a lot of program around it, trying to really create this global movement of responsible AI.
Great. To
Thank you.
robotics now.
Yeah. My name is Oliver Zhang. I'm CEO and founder of Hawk Robo Systems, a California-based AI company. Our main work is to make AI to solve real-world problem. Right now, we primarily work with public safety, like fire department and police department of different states. In the meantime, we also get into hardware. I here represent Hawk Robo. In the meantime, Deep Robotics from Hangzhou too. Although we are, as Hawk Robo, we're hardware agnostic, but we have a very good vendor relationship with them. Another goal is to drive this AI and robotics. And robotics and AI both are very fantastic, but if they are of very high cost, it limits their application. So one of our goals is to drive it affordable and have all of these benefit everyone, as many as we could. Thank you.
Thank you. And over to Matt.
I'm Matt Sachs. I'm managing partner of a Chicago-based venture fund called Lightbank. We've been around for about 15 years. We've raised about $1 billion of capital across 4 funds, backing very early stage technology companies, almost 180 investments over our lifetime. So we've had experience across a wide range of companies. Lucky to work with a few that have gone well, including a business called Tempest AI here in town, and so a bit of experience with AI companies from day one until being public that happy to talk about.
That's great. And Lei?
Hello, everyone. Very honored to be here. My name is Lei Yang. So I'm the co-founder and CEO of Intbot. We are a Silicon Valley-based humanoid robotic company. So we make robot interactive, intuitive, and intelligent. So that's where our name Intbot Int stands for. Our robot have already been deployed in places like hospitality, hotels. We also brought our robot Nilo in the front desk. So if you guys have time, so please talk to him. In our company, our mission is really simple. So many companies, they want to let the robot do physical work. But for us, we feel that the human touch is also important. So we make our robot can perceive, can understand, and can interact, and make it really human aware. Yeah, thank you.
Great. So my first set of questions, and I think people can kind of jump in as you see fit, are really to compare what we're seeing both in like the AI market and the robotics market between the US and China. And maybe Lei, I'll start with you. You're operating a company in Silicon Valley. You have kind of connections and ties as well to China. So in the robotics space, what are you seeing in both contexts in terms of how you'd compare the US and China for robotics?
Yeah. I think the US side is leading in the top-notch innovation. So the US companies are building, the foundation models, the latest simulation platform, and also solving the most challenging problems. The ecosystem here is in general more rewarding for long-term research and very bold experimentation. So that's also our company based in Silicon Valley. We're trying to push the interaction, push the human-like human-robot interaction to the really the next level. On the other side, I think that China is really good at large-scale commercialization and scaling, especially in areas such as manufacturing, robot deployments. For example, if you go to the larger cities in China, the restaurants, the hotels, you already see a lot of robots actually doing work, not just demos. So they are very good at make the hardware costs down and also scale and commercialization. So from InBot, we definitely want to kind of leverage and combine the strengths from both countries. We actually, in our Silicon Valley headquarters, we developed mostly the advanced AI and software algorithms that can operate on any robot hardware. On the other side, we also collaborate with several leading robotic companies in China as well. So we can get the best and the cheapest robot hardware, and we combine the strengths from both countries and serve our customers.
That's great. And Oliver, anything you'd want to add just from your perspective on robotics between the US and China?
Yeah, I think echoing Lei, to me, there are two category of differences. One is maybe the philosophy, and then the other one is regulation. I was thinking why that these differences exist. It might be because the history of economy, and on the U.S. side, it almost like someone from a family, that long-term wealthy family. So when I have this model, it focuses on the model, right? When this model works, all other applications and businesses will follow. Well, on the China side, something usually has to tie to a business, an actual business, so this business can survive and then grow. That might be more a mentality from someone that a little bit less wealthy family. And then the regulation too. Lots of things are like other emerging market. I think the regulations are not there yet. On one side, maybe it's a bad thing, but on the other side, it's a good thing. You look at in here, in many cases, when we do something like drones, usually you will talk about something that you cannot do. Well, in China, you probably got a little more access to lots of the data. That's you can train the robots and AI. Those are the main two differences I saw.
That's great. So if we maybe ask the same question then on the AI front, and Xiaochen, I'm going to turn it to you as to kind of what you would see are the core differences between the two markets as it pertains to AI investment and technology development.
Definitely, and from the U.S. side, that's very similar to the robotic from the foundational model and foundational research, and definitely U.S. is definitely still leading. But from the publication of the paper and all that, China is definitely increasingly just catching up, and in some areas the paper amount, quantity, and all that exceed. So that is a very interesting dynamic. And the second part is really around the private investing. And when you just combine data from 2013 to 2024, and from the private investment to AI, that's US is like 10 times higher than China. So from this, you can imagine that why here a lot of professors and all that just want to, and also entrepreneurs want to enter into this, because there's a large private invest market where who are really care about that. Then you potentially, if you have great idea, great product, great use case, and potential, you can really grow significantly. But in China, and that's from the private investment side. Compared with non-U.S. market, is large, but compared with U.S., is quite small. And then that's you see that who invest, and then those the government-related investment is big, but any of those investment is really as not pro small, it's pro large. And if you are a small actor in the space or entrepreneur, naturally you don't see that the government will give you a contract of $1 billion, and then those a lot of government-led investment will go to large organization, and then that's from the entrepreneurship side. That's definitely is very different from what we can see here. Another interesting part is around the application or applied AI. And when I was downstairs just having lunch, and then the person who was serving lunch and came to me and said that, are you Chinese? I said, yes. And I said, I want to buy some of those AI motion engine from China, and I cannot find where to buy them, and I want to give that to my mother. And can you, when you go back to China, can you buy that and bring to me? And I was laughing, and that's exactly one of the good example where that's from the application side, and from the customer base, and also the willingness to try new things. And China is the best in terms of the customer base, so how ready they are. If you give anything new, then they say there are good benefits. You have a tremendous amount of customer base for any company. You have a good product to survive, to strive. And U.S. is very different, where that's you have to the market acquisition cost is much higher, and there's a lot of behavioral change, and then for smaller companies, and naturally to acquire larger customer base need a lot more investment. So that's from the applied AI side, that China definitely is just more advanced. And at state level, and for example, some of the U.S. states really want to lead in applied AI. That's also in the sense that which state have that. For example, in New York State, because New York is New York, and then they have the population, the willingness to try it, and all that. So you can imagine, from that side, that the two countries, China is more advanced in the applied AI, and the U.S. is more advanced in the private investment into AI. And of course, from the frontier model and frontier research, and the U.S. is still dominating. But in the sense, last night I hosted a dinner in Boston, and with MIT, Harvard, and also industry folks there, and quite a few professors and academics were just very concerned about what is happening, in the sense that whether it's leave not enough space for the those advanced investment for the long-term planning. If now that space is being squeezed, and then how comfortable, and both from the academic research and from the entrepreneur side, that's to make that long-term investment. That's potentially also drive a lot of short-term related decision making. That could just really even out the advantage what U.S. may already have. Yeah.
And just to put a finer point on that, so a data point for everyone in the room here, in 2024, the private investment flows into AI in the US was $100 billion, and in China it was about $10 billion. Your money will get you farther in different contexts, but that's just for private capital, and the government story is probably the opposite. Okay, so Sylvia, I want to ask you the same question. Anytime I talk to Sylvia, she's either in Beijing or Shanghai or Hong Kong or Silicon Valley or Chicago. So you work with entrepreneurs that are truly national and global. And so sometimes they're building certain applications in China and Hong Kong, or they're building here in the United States. What are you hearing from the entrepreneurs of the differences as it pertains to building an AI company between China and the US?
Yeah, I think that's a, sorry, excuse my voice today. I think that's a really good question, because the two markets are drastically different right now. Because the US as a market alone has much stronger buying power and willingness to pay when it comes to AI products. So we're seeing a lot of people in the US building very diverse products into very deep and specific verticals where they can still find really good use case. For example, I've talked to this one Stanford company that's focusing on deal sourcing for biotech companies. So basically, they help the top biotech companies whose machines are like $1 million per equipment to sell the machines, to find the sales lead for them. This is the type of company that would never survive in China because only very selective verticals in China can afford to pay like $2,000 of subscription fee per year for this kind of thing. Or it's not really about affordability, then it's about their interest in paying, or this really a habit about paying for SaaS business. So we see definitely like everything SaaS, everything per user is like the hottest trend in Silicon Valley and in the entirety of US right now, versus like it's a little bit hard to charge people in China with this kind of product. And what China is really betting, and what we believe it's definitely going to happen, but maybe it's just not right now, is everything consumer, from consumer apps to consumer electronics. And if you've been to Shenzhen lately, you definitely have seen this like huge trend of new electronics rising up. So there's like a lot of really interesting things happening right now, but we definitely see this diversion of like how the two sides are going. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, let's pivot now to talk about market trends. And I guess I have to ask the investor here about market trends. Matt, so what market trends, whether it's AI, robotics, excite you, and what concerns you?
I think for excitement, you just have to start with the products and the technology. And so our firm meets about 4,000 early stage companies a year. 5 years ago, if you were shown one of the demos that comes in every day now or multiple times a day, you would have thought it was made up. It was not real product. It was a video that was edited together. We're seeing companies build products that just weren't possible before foundation models and before LLMs, and it's enabling completely new workflows, completely new capabilities, completely new problems to be solved that previously you had to throw human labor at. And so that is beyond exciting. That's the thing that we get up in the morning, makes us want to go to work, is finding new solutions to old problems that have been made possible by recent breakthroughs in technology. I think the sort of counter to that, or the negative that comes with that, is overexuberance. And so we are for sure seeing overinvestment in certain categories, seeing companies that are raising capital completely detached to fundamental business progress or financial metrics or anything like that. I think our view as a firm is that that's actually okay. If you go back through the history of innovation, breakthroughs, and then commensurate financial bubbles, the long-term impact to the economy, the long-term value created by companies and shareholders is actually quite significant. There's short-term loss. There's some companies that get overextended. If you were in the wrong search company in 1999, you might have lost all your money, but search is now a multi-trillion-dollar industry that didn't exist in 1996 or whatever the time frame was. And so the general view for us is this is the most exciting time to be investing in technology in the 15 years I've been in venture capital. There's just so much progress being made so quickly. You're seeing companies go from non-existent to 100 million of revenue run rate within the course of months or a year. That used to be, a 5 to 10 year journey for the best companies. You've seen OpenAI, ChatGPT get to 800 million users in the shortest time frame ever for a company to get to that scale. And so there's a lot of reasons to be excited. And then you have to recognize that probably leads to some overexcitement and try to manage that as you're investing across the space.
So I have a follow-up question for you, but before I ask that, I'll just mention to the audience here, so we have, in that vein that you just mentioned, we have a professor at the University of Chicago. His name is Se Zhang, and he started a company called Together AI a little over 2 years ago, and now it's already, I think, nearly $200 million of annual recurring revenue. They've raised about $500 million of capital. They're growing rapidly. It's a real business, and it's just kind of incredible to see that trajectory. And about half the company is PhD level researchers in computer science. That's a very different type of company than was built, I think, in the Web 2.0 era. But Matt, so a follow up here, where do you think the market is overvalued versus undervalued as it pertains to, when you bring out your checkbook for something in AI?
If I knew, we'd be investing in. I think that what we are spending our time looking for, where we think there is opportunity, is going into old line industries, sort of non-technical industries, and investing in technology companies that are sort of the ambassador to AI for those old line businesses. So how do you run a manufacturing plant in a more efficient way using AI to optimize your workflows? How do you run a logistics business today using AI to reduce? I saw C.H. Robinson put out the other day, they reduced the time to print a quote from 30 minutes to 30 seconds for their average broker. So you can completely rethink how you run your business. The market for the infrastructure companies, the foundation model companies, the sort of technology for technologists has been by far the biggest and most invested in so far. It has done incredibly well. I think it will continue to do well. It's not where we focus and spend as much of our time. We're more focused on the sort of companies in the middle of the country, old line industries, still working with Excel or pen and paper. And if startups can bring new technology to them and help them modernize, revolutionize their business, that's where we think there's going to be long, enduring value, somewhat insulated from trends or bubbles or overinvestment, because you are solving core customer problems, and those don't go away.
So, moving over to Oliver and Lei, I think I'd be curious about your description of where you see the nexus between AI and robotics going. You both think a lot about that with your startups, and there's a huge amount of investment in that area. What do you see as that nexus, and how are these two things in terms of technology verticals enabling each other?
What we're working now that I consider as the brain of a bigger AI, and robotics more as a body. Of course, we see different form factors. You see humanoid, and balls, tracks, quadrupeds, and 6 legs. There will be more. I think, again, in order to solve real-world problem, you need lots of these physical forms. But in the meantime, they all need their brain. Right now, per my limited understanding of what we have today on AI, is more on the understanding side. However, AI, if you allow one of my goal or a company's goal, working together with everyone here, of course, is to remove the A, right? Keep the I, because sometimes the A could be, you still need to work, you make efforts, but in the meantime, we have artificial things, right? Like artificial sweetener, something you're not supposed to put there, right? Keep the intelligence. But however, the intelligence should be being able to do not only the understanding, but planning, reasoning, and then action, and act intelligently. So that's what I see the nexus, the connection. And also, I think in that, there's a lot of work. This is definitely not one-day work. I actually always warn kind of my customer, if they're the first time talking about robotics, I would warn that I would ask, have you just watched the video, YouTube video? If you only watch video clips, please take a 90% discount, because you must have broke like 10 of them in order to get a piece of video. So that also means we have lots of room to grow. There's lots of work and investment, money, people, technology advancement. There's a lot things that will be good for our economy also.
It's a great comment. For those of you who watch if you ever watch one of the robot marathons, you would see not everybody made it to the finish line.
Yeah, exactly. Those that fell is already cut.
Right, exactly. Lei, how about you on this nexus between AI and robotics?
Yeah, I would very much echo what Oliver said. So we really consider AI is the mind, the brain of robot, and the robot is the body of AI. And in the I think all the industry right now is still in a very early stage, but the end goal is the same. Basically, we make general purpose humanoid or other form factor robot, that can understand, interact, and do physical task. So that's the ideal combination between AI and the robotics. So if we consider the current AI, either it's text-based or audio-based, it's still mostly operating in the digital domain. So it doesn't have all the sensors that is needed to know what's happening in the physical world. And of course, it doesn't have the manipulation, the end factors to do physical work. The industry is still in our early stage. I very much agree with the 90% discount. So I think people tend to be a little bit underestimate the challenge, the difficulty that can make humanoid robot really general purpose, can do laundry for you, can go into manufacture line to do the fine manipulation job. So as startup companies, so we believe in this end goal, but at the same time, we take it step by step. So we want to find the intersection that where we can leverage the existing or just slightly next level AI and combine with what's the current hardware platform can offer with reasonable price point and find some reasonable commercial applications. I think that's what Oliver and our company are trying to do. So for example, we see that although the humanoid robot right now, they cannot do laundry for you, but they can interact with people and understand, and also with body language and facial expression. With these functions, they can already generate a lot of business value, for example, in places like hospitality, elderly care, companionship, where human-robot interaction, can bring a lot of value already. So we see that it's a small step kind of towards the end goal, but as one of the companies in this industry, we do believe in the long-term goal. We think as the investors, our startup companies, we collaboratively, we can reach to the general purpose robot end goal.
And could you maybe just both briefly mention, so the customer segments you see the most value? I do think the YouTube videos get the most play, but if you had to say the top 2-3 markets you're going to deploy in where you see the most economic value today, where would those be for your companies?
From me or?
Yeah, for you, Oliver and Lei.
Sure. Yeah. Also, I want to clarify on the 90% discount is not on the software or the computation side. It's more on the local motion, because on the again, another usually warning I would use with my customers. First of all, these are not transformers. Don't expect it to perform that on the local motion side. But in the meantime, the good news is the progress is almost made every day. Right? Today, when you see there's an upgrade, it's different than yesterday and better than yesterday. To Samir's question, right now I go to police department because anywhere there that has a more human life risk, squad, SWAT, or those that have radiation, chemical. These are the good applications for at this point, because also the cost too. Again, if the cost comes down, it will go to more commercial, for example, commercial security, which is physical security, which is my background.
Any other segments for you besides hospitality, kind of elder care?
Yeah, for us, it's we feel that any job that requires human-facing customer interface can be a good market. So again, let me talk about the end goal. So we will, we know there will be billions of robots. So the robot will coexist with the human. So we will not consider them just as tools. the robot needs to understand, talk to a human, and also behave like a human. For us, we feel that with the current AI, and of course our company added all the facial expression, body language part. So we feel the hospitality, elderly care, and just in general, information desk, concierge can be alone can be a very good market.
Great. Well, let's move now to where we see opportunities between the U.S. and China for collaboration, but also where we see friction as it pertains to AI deployment. I'm going to go to this side of me right now, and which either maybe Xiaochen, if you want to start. Where do you see the opportunity for collaboration between the two countries as it pertains to AI? Where do you see the most friction?
Yeah, and first just reflect, earlier, and when I saw the agenda, I said, agriculture first, then AI, and what's the intention? But after I was here, listened to the first panel, I do see the great intention and also the potential great result of from that, because those are the topic the two countries are in the sense of both competing and also collaborating. And from the AI side, I think that's any industry, both countries want to just lead from the industry side, want to be the industry leaders. I think that is healthy, and then the competition should continue. And but there are things which are really require collaboration. And number one for me is standards. Where that if U.S. standards and the Chinese standard, or another third country, or if we have around 200 countries in the world, and then everyone have their own standards, and then your system doesn't talk to my system, and then you can imagine every one of us who are in this room, international traveler, and then go to different economy, and then you can imagine that disaster. You cannot make the payment. You cannot all that. Standards is really very, very important, and where that's one country doesn't cannot just define an international standard without having other countries to participate. So every country have a role there. So I think the standards is number one, and the second part is really around the impact related AI application, because by the end of the day, that's in addition to the commercial usage, and AI can really benefit humanity. And we all face the global climate change. We all have any country have this senior population, healthcare challenge, and China is entering into the aging economy, and then U.S. If after all this, we also very clear here the labor and all that. There's a ton of a challenge where that's this is the second part, that how can just countries working together to just working on those leveraging AI to solve global problems everyone face. And there that AI can just help to just make a lot of climate related innovation to be commercially viable, and then that can just improve adoption, and that can just dramatically reducing carbon emission, and support the global commitment to meet the Paris Agreement. And then from the UN SDG side, that's we still have, there's a long way to go for us to just meet the SDG, all the 17 goals, and then there that's AI literally you can see that we already see quite a few areas where AI can just solve a lot of problem, and many of those SDG related innovation face the challenge from the private investment side is it's not commercially viable. And it's too costly to serve. It's too costly to find the market niche. It's too costly to just reporting, and also to just reporting, monitoring, and all that. AI can really just reducing all that cost, and then to support SDG. And the third part is around the research, and even with the current attention that we have seen, but I do see that the research side. is still continue and then need to be continued in a collaborative model where that's that I think itself will just generate a lot of potential long-term benefits, and where that's we have seen that in the U.S. that many of the largest tech company are I used to work for AWS, and many of us who are here working for some of the big tech company in the U.S. If you go to China, the same, and many of the large tech companies in China, and then many of the employees or technical experts are coming from educated here or worked here and then brought that knowledge back there. And this, if this is stopped, and I think that will be really, in the long term, both country and the whole world will see the consequence. That consequence, I think, is really unbearable, and compare what we already have. And it's very interesting to just compare this with if we go to certain standards, living standards, it's very difficult for us to go back. And similar to the research side, that if you're just used to this global collaboration, used to the brain power, and suddenly that if this disappear, and then I think that will be a big loss for the humanity in terms of knowledge generation and then continuation. And the last part is around the responsible AI. And again, from my side, that when I started AI 2030, and I have not really done any market research. Who care about this topic? And where are they? What kind of job role? And which geographical location? But when I started, I know you can see that we within a very short period of time we have over 5,000 people from 50 countries who are AI expert, care about the topic, and you imagine those expertise are really lying in both countries, where that to make AI transparent, accountable, fair, safe, secure, sustainable. And the reason those need collaboration, need this global community, is that everyone cannot do that alone. So for example, fairness for this country is might be different from the other country. And then if you are a global company and you want to serve both market, now that if you don't have the data from the other country, how can you serve? And then that's just a constraint the growth for the company. And U.S. is a capitalist country, and then if this, you clearly see that this will just constrain the capitalist growth and expansion. That itself definitely have a very strong incentive in terms of looking at the long term and see that how we can just through the collaboration, through pooling the global expertise, and especially if we talk about U.S. China bring this brain power together to make AI transparent, accountable, fair, safe, and all that. That is in the long term will benefit both countries. Yeah.
And Sylvia, from your perspective, what do you see as the biggest opportunity? Where do you see the biggest friction when it pertains to AI companies, maybe with startups?
Yeah, sorry, I'm going to start with friction because it's obviously it's going to be data. Data security is one of the major concern the major concern for both countries. It has been and is the biggest controversy right now, and I'm going to have to say it's going to be the biggest issue going forward as well. But I feel like the issue is so obvious and so concerning right now is mostly because most data are still provided or saved on cloud services. But as technology develops, when we go more and more towards like edge computing and eventually when on-device computing would finally works, I feel like there would be less and less concern when data is secured and stored in localized facilities or even just on your own devices. And at that point, I think both countries will feel a little bit more at ease and at the same time maintain the sovereignty on the data of their own country. And on the note of that, it comes to like the second question you mentioned, like what are going to be the biggest collaboration part. I think the number one is still very obvious, is it's going to be everything hardware, all the way from robotics to consumer electronics, and even honestly to edge computing chips, because if you look at the regulations of the US government closely, those chips are actually much smaller and falls outside of the regulation rule that bans the trade between China and US. So I think when it comes to hardware, there's going to be a lot of unavoidable collaboration and great collaboration as well going forward, because you always need the supply chain in China, and then you always need the design, the technology, and the ideas and the market here in the US. So supply chain is real, technology is like dispersed. This is always gonna happen no matter what like the current state of government or what challenges we're facing right now. And I think the second thing is coming back to what I mentioned before, is still gonna be everything consumer facing, because we've actually seen this gameplay before. It's just like when China banned Google and then the US trying to ban TikTok. It's like the same story all over again, the oldest tale. This is like the equivalent of the whole LLM battlefield that we're seeing right now. Because I feel like maybe, I don't really know the exact timeline, maybe we'll consult on the experts on that, but LLM is eventually gonna be aligned and it's gonna become a commodity when it comes to computation, LLM power, and all of the base technology. And at that level, it doesn't really matter if the base models are like based in China or based in the US, but the product we're building on top of it can still be used, and you'll just plug into different LLMs in different regions to just like fulfill the data security requirements. So just like how you still cannot use Google without VPN in China right now, I think it's gonna be like the same situation where we have search engine equivalent consumer-facing products, we have like e-commerce products, we have content generation products and platforms. It's gonna be maybe two set of products who are the reflection, or we say like the counterpart of each other. But people around the world, especially in China and US, are gonna be able to use the same thing, regardless of what base model is plugged into.
That's great. I'm going to turn to the audience here in a minute for some questions. So think of your questions. Before I do, I'm just going to ask everyone on the panel to talk about maybe like one company story you find interesting. We all read in the headlines about a Perplexity or Anthropic or ChatGPT, but I think there's probably a layer of very interesting companies being built that everyone here is not reading about in the Wall Street Journal or the Economist or whatever. So maybe you could talk about, whether it's in robotics or AI, kind of a brief bit about a company that you find interesting that's not your own company, so we can get some perspective. Matt, I'm going to start with you.
It's not my own company, but we did invest in it, so I hope that's okay.
He's going to pitch his book now.
Yeah, exactly. There's a company here in Chicago called Pathos AI. Pathos is using large language models to try to change the drug development time frame and path to market. The view is that there is a huge number of molecules out there that have been identified to try to treat certain illness and prove safe by passing phase 1 trials that fail in phase 2. Something like 40 or 45% of drugs fail in phase 2 trials. If you had better trial design informed by a large language model, could you reduce that number to 10 or 20% and bring twice as many drugs to market half as fast? And so it's a business that we've invested in. I think that healthcare in general and the application of large models to biology is a hugely important and really for society and really big economic opportunity. And it's being built here in Chicago, which is a pretty exciting thing for us.
How big was their Series A?
Series B, they
Series
just
B.
raised $400 million, led by AstraZeneca at a $1.6 billion valuation.
Okay, interesting company. Oliver? Yeah, shake his hand, exactly.
Yes, actually, maybe a little bit of future company I want to comment is actually Mr. Pinney's company. He did mention that it sounds maybe ambitious, yet I think it's very realistic to make. I think his company will be a major part of it to make Chicago a center of future robotics hardware center, and that's very, very doable. I've always admired actually his let's say, wisdom or intelligence on being able to have this deep understanding of both culture, both business, and multiple layers. I think that's something really I'm expecting. Maybe just add a little bit, maybe off the topic. US and China are brothers. I'm not saying should be. they are. Because of my work, because of work, I traveled 40, 50 countries. One of the discovery is people are so much in common than their difference. The commonality is crucial. And living here in North America / US for 20 some years, and China almost the same length of time, I see that commonality also is very similar, even among all nations that I know in the world. US and Chinese people as a nation are very similar, actually. Hardworking, forward-thinking. There's lots of commonalities, good people. And plus, I think it's very fortunate or lucky that that these two countries are not border countries. Otherwise, you would have more problems to check. But anyways, the friction, if you will, I think is very, very temporary. That's also what I'm talking about. Let's find the intelligence. Maybe try to reduce the artificial part, because real intelligence is really a perception that matches reality. See the panda example, right? You have different colors, but it's cute. I think that's a very good one.
Well, it's funny you mentioned this. So I always tell Americans, I have the joy of going on a delegation once a year with Pin and his other colleagues, and people always say, well, what's the difference between doing business in China and the U.S.? I said the exact same thing, that the people are the most similar of anyone in the world. They work really hard. They're forward-thinking, to your point. They want their kids and their future generation to do well, and they want to make money. And I think that we share those commonalities. You stated that perfectly. Lei, maybe you could talk about one company story in robotics or AI that is compelling you right now.
Yeah, sure. So we're actually right now we see more and more companies that they are going into this our area, not just make a robot doing physical work, but also emotion, interaction, giving EQ to robots, or just it could be a humanoid, or it could be toys. One company I found actually very interesting is a Chinese company. I think it's called Robosen. It's a company that kind of making IP-based robot toys. So they have been actually selling quite well in Amazon. I think what they did was, first of all, they were headquartered in Shenzhen, which is basically the hardware innovation hub in China, and they are able to make their hardware really low cost. But at the same time, so they also kind of target the U.S. market. So they are selling transformer robot toys on Amazon, where people are willing to pay a few $100 or maybe a couple $1,000 for a robot toy, can talk to people, can entertain, and they have been doing really well. So yeah, I see that company is very interesting, and they kind of combine the strengths from both countries to make their business success.
Okay, you heard it here first, people. Robot transformer labubus. Okay.
Yeah, and before that, what you said remind me, Ms. Wang Xi was just mentioned about that, U.S. is the wife and China is the mom, and that is exactly my situation. I married American, and my mom, actually the funny thing is that the folks or people who really want these two countries to have the best relationship is the mom and my pop. So they really want, please, these two countries just stay in good relationship, and then we as a family can just really just live in peace, internal peace. And I think many of us in the room feel the same way. And from the startup side, that last year, this year, we from the accelerator program that we accelerate around 120 some startups, and one of the focus is on AI accessibility. So one startup who is from Poland, um, they are doing something very interesting, and where that they basically, from people who just, have disability, and from sign language itself, that, there's a global shortage of provider, and from human, sign language provider. So many of, those folks who are underserved, and where that's his company is basically to just using AI to develop this, provide sign language simultaneously, where that's now that's, the accuracy is around like 78%, which is below the performance of the human. And but from the research and all that, it's the accuracy of precision can reach to 98%, which is far more advanced than humans. You can imagine that if that is just being scaled properly, and this specific population will be helped significantly, and with the cost which is definitely manageable for them. Yeah.
And Sylvia, you see a lot of deal flow. So what's the one story you want to tell?
I'm gonna ask for your linen and actually mention two companies, because I think these are both companies that's really worth mentioning to the room of guests here, especially. These companies are both built by Asian women, Chinese women to be specific, and they're both trying to build the physics model of the world, which are like the most advanced, but I do believe that it's gonna be one of the major area that's going to really affect AI implementation in the future, especially when it comes to robotics, embodied AI, and everything of the like. The first company is built by Dr. Fei Li. I know a lot of you must have heard World Labs, and they recently released their newest model, Marble, and the effect is just magnificent. It's for the usage of both aesthetics and industrial simulation. And the precision and the imagination are both just incredible. So I encourage people to actually give it a try. And I think in very short term, it's going to be very helpful for robotics company to gain data, because obviously you need both real world data and simulation to really achieve the usage in the real world. So I think this is a really exciting moment when it comes to physics model. And this is a very top-down way of doing things, because Dr. Li also raised a couple $100 million to build this model from a very foundational standpoint. And the second company I want to mention, who's also trying to achieve the same goal, is a company in our portfolio named called Arda. And the founder, Alex, is also trying to really build the physics world via something more granular. What she's building is basically, we call it the cursor, but for mechanical engineers, because software engineers are so pampered. There's so many software, so many developer tools built for them, but mechanical engineers have been so overlooked. I know there must be a lot of mechanical engineering background people in the crowd, given the companies they're from. What she built right now is this agentic layer for all kind of software that you're using day to day as a mechanical engineer, as long as you have an idea and as long as you can describe it with natural language. The product helps you to build your draft, build your 3D model, and then help you test in the physical world, see if it works physically, and then finally help you see if this specific part you're building is gonna work in the granular mechanery you're trying to fit this part in. So this is really a one-step shop that really releases so much time and energy for mechanical engineers. And what she's trying to do is, through gathering data from all the users who are building all the machines around the world, from oil, gas, spaceship, airplane, mechanical manufacturer, plants and stuff, and then really use the data to build the world for industrial usage. So I think these are two very interesting company, both built by great Asian women founders who are great scientists and going towards the same end goal. So would definitely encourage people to take a look at it.
Well, Matt, I feel like some of these companies, they all fit the thesis that you laid out. So it shows you're a good investor. Let's turn it to the audience now. I think we have time for maybe one or two questions. We're starting over here. If someone has a microphone, anybody have a microphone? Or we'll hand one down. While that's going down, my company is glasses that translate. Pin and I tried these, and there's a company that has an auto translator and you put it on, and someone's speaking one language to you, and you can see the text in front of you, which was impressive.
That's very cool. Hi, my name is Hu Song. I'm from New York City. I'm an investor in tech. I have a question about AI and the politics, actually. Recently, there's a wave of state-level regulations, first of Colorado and then California. And I heard that some other states were drafting, even Texas, were drafting their own regulations. And the one from Colorado has very vague language and give them a lot of space to define what is against law or not. And also, it's also a problem of the people who draft the regulations do not really understand AI. For example, they will trace the responsibility if the AI did anything wrong by their user. So that's very scary. On the other hand, the CEO of Alibaba, Joe Tsai, in the All-In Summit in California in September said that, I forgot how many years, maybe 3 or 5 years, the Chinese government is planning to penetrate the entire society, 90% of AI in a couple years. So on one hand, we're having a patchwork of regulations in the United States to try to regulate the development of AI and how people should use it and how they should be developed. And tremendous downside regulatory risks for those companies. And on the other hand, the Chinese government is all in the AI race. Right? Combining recent comments of Jensen Huang saying China is going to win the AI competition, which many people thought he's trying to proceed his own agenda, but given what I said, I think he make a good sense about that. So my question is for any one of you, how do you look at the situation and how do you think it's gonna develop? Thanks.
Easy question. Anyone want to comment on this?
Yeah, I can do it. Yeah, and last year we worked with Cornell University, did a research called the G20 AI Regulation Index, where we studied the G20 countries and we built a diamond model and looking at the 4 dimensions of regulation, whether the AI regulation is promoting innovation, protecting customer, and it's interoperable, and also, I forgot the last one, and basically we rank them, and then interestingly, when you see, if you ask any of the American company who are in the regulated industry, and AI regulation it doesn't matter that much, because literally, 95% of AI-related regulation are already there in your compliance. It's more as how your new AI-based product is complying with the existing regulation, and there's not much space for the new rule. But that's the impact a lot is for the non-regulated industry, and compare U.S. with Europe, for example. Europe already have EU AI Act, and then that has a lot of clarity. And if you ask again, because I have a lot of this industry conversation, roundtable with the executive and all that, and the AI regulation might not be a bad thing. The reason is that when you look at, for example, Anthropic just is settling this for $1.5 billion lawsuits, and where it's clear that if there's a clear regulation, you are not supposed to just train others' data without paying them and all that. They probably have a more, like an easier way or more cost-effective way for them to train it. But because there's no regulation, then they did it, and now that $1.5 billion have to spend for that. And then when you just look at, we have another publication called AI 2030 Watch, a monthly AI court case review. So every month, and then we just highlight that, so you can see all the AI company who are the star company who are in the court case with your customer, in the sense that if you are not doing it responsibly, and it's not only that you are going to be fined by your regulators, you may also lose your customer. When you lose your customer trust, that's the loss. It take a lot more money, time for you to get them back. So from the regulation side, this is the lowest bar. if they just define the lowest bar for you, at least that's protection. So from that end, it's actually not a bad thing. When you look at China, it's not China doesn't have regulation, and China from our index actually the regulation part is ranked pretty high. Yeah.
Great. I think we're at time, so we'll have to end the panel. But please join me in thanking our guests here for a lovely panel. And in closing, I just wanted to mention, so U Chicago has a very global footprint. We have a center in Beijing, a campus in Hong Kong, and so as you all are traveling, we'd love to invite you to our campuses, especially those in Beijing and Hong Kong. Thank you.